Have you ever wondered how far a dog's intelligence can go? Could a Labrador Retriever, with nothing but loyalty and instinct, actually save his owner's life in the most dangerous situation imaginable? It all begins on a crisp morning, high in the mountains where the air is thin and the weather unpredictable. The owner, a seasoned and skilled mountain climber, stands at the base of an intimidating peak. The climb ahead isn't for the faint of heart: treacherous cliffs, unstable weather, and steep, icy paths. But this isn't his first time facing danger. His dog, Max, a calm and strong Labrador Retriever, stands by his side, ears alert, tail wagging, as if he senses the weight of the journey. They've climbed together before, and they share a bond that goes beyond what most would consider possible. They are a team. In the wild, they trust each other completely. There's something different about today, though. The storm clouds roll in faster than anticipated. The air grows heavier, the winds pick up, and the mountain seems almost alive, shifting beneath their feet. The tension in the air is thick, as if nature itself is holding its breath. The stakes are high, and both know it, yet neither hesitates. The climb begins. Each step is calculated and precise, the rocks beneath their boots crumbling in places but solid in others. Max moves with ease, following his owner's lead, his tail flicking like a metronome. They navigate narrow ledges, icy slopes, and thick patches of snow. Max's loyalty is unwavering, his eyes constantly on his owner, as if saying, "I'm here, I've got your back." There's a silent understanding between them, one that's built over years of climbing, and that understanding creates a seamless, almost magical synchronization. But then, in an instant, the storm becomes more than just a challenge. It becomes a force that threatens to tear them apart. The wind howls, and the snow begins to swirl with such intensity that visibility is reduced to mere inches. A treacherous gust hits, pushing the climber off balance. His footing slips. In a heartbeat, the ground beneath him crumbles, and the sharp, jagged rocks below call out like hungry beasts. The climber's heart races as he plummets, helpless against the fall, his body twisting through the air, unable to stop. Max, watching this, goes rigid. The bond they share is tested in that moment, but the dog doesn't freeze in fear. Instead, his instincts kick in. He barks loudly, but the sound is drowned out by the roaring wind. Max doesn't panic, not even for a second. He knows that the only way to help is by acting quickly and smartly. His mind races. Should he follow? Should he search for help? He looks down the cliffside, calculating, his eyes sharp as they survey the distance. He doesn't hesitate. He knows what must be done. The storm is closing in, but neither the climber nor Max hesitates. The climb begins in earnest, with each step feeling heavier than the last. The wind howls, biting at their skin, and the air grows thin, but the mountain climber's focus is sharp. He moves with calculated precision, his eyes scanning the treacherous terrain for the next hold. Each movement is instinctive, years of training guiding his every action. But what no one can see is the quiet, almost unnoticed presence of Max, the Labrador, right behind him. A constant, vigilant shadow. Max isn't just following, he's guiding. His paws leave deep imprints in the snow as he carefully steps around loose rocks and slippery patches of ice, always staying just a few steps behind, ensuring his owner's safety without drawing attention to himself. His gaze never wavers. Max's instincts are finely tuned. He watches for any shift in the landscape that could cause his owner to slip. And when the climber stumbles slightly on a patch of ice, Max is there, nudging him gently with his nose to steady him. It's small, subtle, but it makes all the difference. Every move Max makes, every turn of his head, is an unspoken communication between the two. Despite the biting cold and the increasing intensity of the storm, the climber never feels alone. Max's presence is a steady comfort, like a silent partner. The dog leads the way on occasion, nudging the climber to avoid a hidden crevice or pointing out a safer path. There's an unspoken rhythm between them. Max knows when to stay close, when to hang back, and when to push ahead. The storm picks up, but the duo is undeterred. Max stays close, his body braced against the wind, his fur coated in a thin layer of snow. He's the climber's eyes, his compass, and his strength in ways that can't be measured. As the climber takes another step forward, the two of them, human and dog, move together, each action in sync with the other, as though their bond is the key to surviving the mountain's cruelty. Through the rough terrain, with every gust of wind and the ever-looming danger of the climb, Max and his owner move as one. They are more than just climber and dog. They are an inseparable team, their trust in each other unwavering as they push forward into the storm. The storm is no longer just a backdrop, it's a raging beast, howling with relentless fury, obscuring everything in sight. The wind picks up in violent gusts, biting at their faces as snow and ice whip through the air like shards of glass. The climber, relying on his years of experience, keeps his eyes fixed ahead, each step calculated and deliberate. But in the chaos of the storm, the impossible happens. His foot slips. It's subtle at first, just a fraction of a second too late, as he shifts his weight onto an unstable edge. His body reacts before his mind can process. He's already falling. The sudden rush of panic grips his chest as he struggles to regain control, but it's too late. The mountain, once his ally, now betrays him. His hands grasp for anything to hold onto, but all he finds is the biting cold air, and the ground beneath him vanishes. Max watches this unfold in horror. He stands firm for just a moment, barking furiously, but the sound is drowned out by the deafening wind. His heart races, and the instinct to protect his owner surges through him. Without hesitation, Max lunges forward, but there's nothing he can do. His owner has already fallen. The climber plunges into the icy chasm below, his body twisting in midair as he tries to slow the fall. Time seems to stretch as his life hangs by a thread, every inch of his descent a potential death sentence. His limbs are numb from the cold, and the shock of the fall makes it nearly impossible to focus. But one thought pushes through the chaos: survive. He hits the ground with an unearthly thud, the impact rattling his bones, leaving him breathless and dazed. His body is battered, and the wind continues to roar, but he can't move. The world around him is spinning, his vision blurry, and a dull ache radiates from his chest and limbs. Max, still at the edge of the cliff, leaps forward, his eyes wide with alarm. He barks again, this time with a raw desperation, as if trying to reach the climber from afar. He races around, his paws kicking up snow and dirt, pacing in circles. He knows his owner needs help, immediate help, and there's no time to waste. The urgency in Max's actions is clear. His bond with the climber isn't just love, it's survival, and right now, Max is ready to do whatever it takes to save him. The world spins around the climber as he crashes down the steep cliffside, his body a ragdoll tossed by the forces of gravity and the unforgiving mountain. Every part of him slams against jagged rocks, the pain unbearable, his mind slipping in and out of consciousness. The wind howls louder as his body crumples, coming to an abrupt stop after a brutal tumble. His face, scraped and battered, is covered in a thin layer of snow, blood mixing with the ice. He doesn't move. The storm continues its assault on the mountain, but for a moment, everything is eerily still. Max's frantic barks echo across the cliffside, sharp and filled with panic. He has seen it all: the fall, the impact, and now his owner lies motionless at the bottom, his body twisted and broken. Max refuses to move, rooted to the edge where the climber had slipped moments ago. He knows the danger, knows that if he moves, he may never find his owner again. His whole being trembles with the fear of what's to come next. But there's a feeling inside him, a call to act, to save his owner, to not give up. Max stands at the edge, his eyes scanning the treacherous drop below, every instinct screaming at him to help. He barks again, louder this time, but the sound of the wind drowns out his desperate plea. There's a gnawing sense of helplessness deep inside him. He's so close, yet the abyss between them feels impossibly vast. The dog takes a hesitant step forward, his paws skidding on the icy rocks, but he can't bring himself to move any closer. He sniffs the air, his tail stiff, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. Should I go down? Should I stay? Max's breath comes in short, panicked bursts. His mind races, torn between staying where it's safe or risking it all to reach his owner. He knows the distance is too great to leap down. He knows the danger of the mountain better than anyone. But the loyalty in his chest burns brighter than fear, and his instincts push him forward. He paws the ground, anxious and torn, barking again, louder, more urgent this time. He won't leave, not without him. He won't let the mountain claim his owner. Max's every muscle tenses, preparing for the only action that matters, to find a way, to save his friend, no matter the cost. Max stands at the edge of the cliff, his heart racing in his chest. He barks again, the sound sharp and desperate, but the wind howls back, swallowing his voice, leaving nothing but the empty roar of the storm. The fear in his chest threatens to overwhelm him, but he shakes it off. Barking won't save him. Max knows this with a clarity that cuts through the panic. His owner is down there, injured, alone, and Max has to do something. The dog's eyes dart across the terrain, his brain working furiously as he processes every possible solution. He doesn't hesitate. He begins moving, not towards the ledge where his owner fell, but instead he races away, down the narrow, snow-covered path to the left. He knows the terrain better than anyone, instinctively understanding that the direct route isn't the answer. He's not just a dog. Right now, Max is an agent of survival, using every ounce of intelligence he has to navigate this deadly situation. With every paw step, Max's mind whirs. He doesn't stop to think. He doesn't need to. His body moves on autopilot, reacting to the environment, to his deep-rooted instinct to protect his owner. He sniffs the air, his keen sense of smell guiding him. He knows there's a route somewhere, hidden beneath the layers of snow and rock, a path that could lead him to his fallen friend. Max's senses are on high alert. He moves with speed and purpose, scanning the ground for signs, anything that might indicate a safe descent. His eyes flick to every potential path, every crevice, every rock that could be used as leverage. His determination burns bright, his movements sharp and precise, a stark contrast to the chaos of the storm surrounding him. For a moment, it feels like time slows. Max finds it just a small gap between two rocks, barely noticeable under the snow. It's the only chance. He digs at the base of the rocks, pawing through the snow, his heart pounding in his chest as he clears the path. With each dig, his hope grows, and the thought of his owner's life hangs on the edge of every movement. The dog pauses, takes a breath, and then, with no further hesitation, continues on his mission to save the man who had always been his guide. Max is more than a dog. He's a lifeline. A true testament to the intelligence, bravery, and loyalty that go beyond human expectations. Max's paws sink deep into the snow as he nears the base of the cliff, his chest heaving, his breath coming in shallow bursts. The storm rages around him, but it's the mountain's cruel terrain that poses the real challenge. Jagged rocks, slick with ice, jut out of the snow like the sharp teeth of a predator, threatening to trip him at every step. Yet Max doesn't hesitate. His focus is unwavering. His owner lies below, hurt, possibly unconscious, and Max knows he can't afford to waste a single moment. He moves cautiously at first, his body low to the ground, his tail rigid, ears pinned back in concentration. The ground beneath his paws shifts constantly, loose stones, unstable patches of ice, and deep gaps between rocks, each step a calculated risk. Max's body reacts with remarkable precision. He leaps over gaps, carefully testing each rock for stability before committing his weight. His sharp instincts guide him. He knows that one wrong move could send him tumbling, but there's no room for fear. His owner needs him. Max pauses briefly, his eyes scanning the steep slope below. His heart pounds in his chest, but his mind remains clear. A few meters ahead, he sees it, a series of sharp, icy ledges that could easily break his fall, but could also send him hurtling into the chasm below. His pulse quickens, but he doesn't falter. He carefully steps onto the first ledge, testing its stability. It holds. Max's muscles coil as he leaps to the next one, his body moving with a grace and precision that's nothing short of astounding. There's no hesitation in his movements, no uncertainty. Every jump, every shift of his paws is a testament to his ability to read the terrain. He's been trained by the mountain's harsh lessons before, and now he's using everything he's learned to save his owner. The wind howls louder, trying to push him off course, but Max pushes forward, his path steady and determined. He's no longer just a dog. He's a force of nature, a protector driven by love and an unbreakable bond. The obstacles only seem to fuel him, propelling him further down the treacherous cliffside. With each movement, the distance between him and his injured owner grows smaller. Max is relentless. Nothing will stop him. Max finally reaches the base of the cliff where his owner lies, battered and motionless. The storm rages around them, but the deafening roar of the wind seems to fade as Max focuses entirely on the task at hand. His eyes lock onto his owner's still form, lying half buried in snow and ice, his body twisted and broken from the fall. Max's heart races. This is the moment he's been pushing for, but it's far from over. He approaches cautiously, his movements slow and deliberate, testing every step for stability on the treacherous terrain. The last thing he wants is to accidentally make things worse. With his nose to the ground, Max inches closer to his fallen friend, his eyes never leaving him. The sense of urgency intensifies, but Max remains calm, driven by an unwavering sense of loyalty. His tail stiffens as he reaches his owner, sniffing carefully around him, ensuring there's nothing more dangerous lurking nearby. Reaching his owner's side, Max nuzzles his face gently with his nose, his warm breath a stark contrast to the freezing air. He presses closer, urging the climber to wake up, his own body trembling with anxiety. He paws at the man's chest, nudging harder this time, but there's no immediate response. The climber's face remains pale, his eyes closed, and a thin layer of snow coats his hair. Max doesn't stop, though. He nudges again, a little more insistently, his soft whimpers of worry cutting through the howling wind. Finally, the climber stirs, his eyelids fluttering as he groggily regains some awareness of the world around him. He blinks several times, the fog in his mind thick from the shock of the fall. His eyes finally meet Max's, and the dog's comforting presence seems to bring a sense of calm. The owner's hand twitches slightly, and he reaches out, brushing Max's fur weakly. But his movements are slow, sluggish, and his breathing is shallow. The situation is still dire. Max's heart sinks as he watches his owner struggle to stay conscious. The storm is unforgiving, and the distance to safety feels impossibly far. But Max stays there, steadfast at his side, offering what little warmth and comfort he can. His presence is the only thing keeping the climber tethered to reality. Time is running out, and Max knows it. But he's not leaving. He never will. Not while there's breath in his body. The wind howls, but Max is still, watching his owner with unwavering loyalty. The climber's face is pale, his body trembling with cold and pain. His eyes flutter open, disoriented, but it's clear from his labored breaths that every movement causes agony. He tries to shift, attempting to sit up, but a sharp gasp escapes him, his body protesting in pain. He sinks back down, his face contorting with the effort. Max doesn't look away. His eyes are locked on his owner, the bond between them stronger than the storm itself. Max's tail remains stiff as he watches, the worry evident in every part of him. He knows his owner is strong, but he also knows that strength can only go so far. The climber can't move without excruciating pain, and Max senses the danger creeping closer with every passing minute. He doesn't need to be told, he feels it. They're isolated, the storm making it almost impossible for anyone to reach them. Help is miles away, and the longer they stay exposed to the elements, the less likely either of them will make it out alive. Max's mind races. He knows the mountain. He knows the only way to save them both is to get help. The urgency surges through him like a bolt of lightning. The bond he shares with his owner, the loyalty in his very being, tells him not to leave, but instinctively, he knows he must. The climber won't survive much longer in his condition. There's only one option. Max must find help, no matter what the cost. His eyes glance toward the cliff edge, where the climb up is impossible, and the path forward is treacherous. He takes a deep breath, feeling the cold air rush into his lungs, but it does little to calm his racing heart. Max looks back at his owner one last time. The decision is made. He doesn't want to leave, but he can't stand by and watch his owner die. Max's tail stiffens, his body coiling with purpose. He barks once, a sharp, loud sound that echoes through the snow-filled air. Without another moment's hesitation, he turns and begins running into the storm, his paws digging into the snow as he races toward the unknown, driven by love, determination, and an unshakable desire to save the man who's always been by his side. Max pushes against the bitter wind, the snow piling up around him with every step, but he doesn't slow down. There's no time for hesitation. His instincts guide him, and in his heart, he knows the nearest settlement is a couple of miles away. It might as well be 100 for all the obstacles between him and safety. But there's no alternative. He must reach help. Every step is harder than the last, the wind cutting into his fur, the snow deep and unforgiving. But Max's resolve only grows stronger. His owner needs him, and he won't stop. Max's legs move tirelessly, powering through the thick snow. His muscles ache, his body desperate for warmth, but there's no time for fatigue. The storm whips around him, each gust stronger than the last, but Max fights against it, his determination unwavering. His nose is low to the ground, guiding him through the whiteout, but his focus never wavers. He knows where he's going, instinctively understanding the landscape around him, the way the terrain shifts beneath his paws, the pull of the wind that threatens to throw him off course. He stumbles once, his paw slipping on a patch of ice, but he recovers immediately, digging his claws into the earth, propelling himself forward again. His chest heaves, but he doesn't stop, not for a second. His breath comes in short, ragged bursts as he battles the elements, but his mind is clear. Every ounce of his being is focused on one thing: getting help. His body aches with every step, his muscles screaming in protest, but Max doesn't listen to the pain. He knows that if he doesn't make it, his owner won't survive. That thought drives him forward. His eyes scan the horizon, looking for any sign of civilization, anything that could guide him through this endless storm. The wind howls louder, the snow falls heavier, and every direction looks the same. But Max doesn't falter. His instinct is sharp, and he trusts it. Every part of him tells him to keep going. He will not fail. Not now. Through the blinding snow and raging storm, Max pushes forward, relentless. Each mile feels like a mountain, but with every step, he gets closer to the one thing that could save them both: a chance at survival. There's no turning back. Not for Max, not for his owner. Max's legs ache with every step, but he pushes through the searing cold. The snow lashes against his face, stinging his eyes, blurring his vision. The storm isn't just a challenge, it's a violent force that seems determined to stop him at every turn. The wind howls with fury, pushing him backward, making each step feel like a struggle against an invisible wall. The temperature drops further, and the snow begins to pile up around him, reaching his chest, making each movement heavier than the last. Despite the freezing temperatures, the gusty winds, and the near-blinding snow, Max doesn't falter. His instincts drive him forward, his head held high, his focus unwavering. Every muscle in his body screams in protest, but he doesn't slow down. He can't afford to. His owner's life depends on him. That thought fuels every step, every breath. The storm may be relentless, but Max is determined to find civilization. He knows he must. His eyes scan the horizon, though all he sees is white, snow swirling around him in a blur, the landscape swallowed by the storm. There's no sign of anything familiar, no way to know if he's even on the right path. But Max doesn't hesitate. His senses are sharp, his instincts owned by years of survival and loyalty. He knows there's something out there, a settlement, a search party, anything. He can't stop now. With every gust of wind, the snow stings his face like tiny needles, and his paws sink deeper into the snow with each step. The biting cold seeps into his bones, but he continues to push forward, his eyes scanning the distance for any sign of life. There's nothing. The world around him is a blur of white, and Max's heart begins to pound faster with anxiety. Where is it? Where's the help? But then, in the distance, just as the doubt begins to settle in, he sees it. A flicker of movement. His heart leaps. His pace quickens, the storm still trying to push him back. But Max's determination grows even stronger. He moves faster now, the thought of his owner's survival propelling him with a renewed sense of urgency. Each step is a battle, but Max is no longer fighting just the storm. He's fighting for his owner, for their chance at survival. Max's muscles burned, and his breath came in jagged bursts as he trudged through the relentless snowstorm. His paws ached with every step, yet he pushed forward, driven by a singular purpose: to save his owner. The storm battered him from all sides, snowflakes biting into his fur like needles, the wind howling in a cruel, deafening symphony. The world around him was a blur of white and gray, an endless, swirling chaos. Max's eyes were squinted shut against the cold, and each step forward felt like an eternity. Yet, with the silent resolve of a creature bound by loyalty, he pressed on. His heart raced with fear and determination. Time was running out. He knew that much. Every moment spent in this frozen wasteland put his owner's life further out of reach. Desperation clawed at him, threatening to overtake his courage. But then, just as his energy began to falter and hope seemed to slip through his paws like sand, something caught his sharp gaze. A dark silhouette, a figure, just ahead, barely visible through the howling blizzard. Max's senses immediately sharpened, his instincts firing in an instant. A climber? Another soul lost to the storm? Without thinking, Max surged forward, his tired legs pumping with newfound urgency. His barks rang out, breaking through the storm's deafening roar, a desperate call for attention. He ran faster now, his focus narrowing to the lone figure, the only sign of life in an otherwise desolate world. The climber froze. For a moment, confusion overtook him, his fogged mind trying to understand the presence of a dog in such an unforgiving place. But something in Max's eyes, something that could not be ignored, urged him to follow. The climber, sensing that this dog was not an ordinary creature, rose from his crouched position and stumbled forward, drawn by the urgency in Max's movements. Max turned, looking back over his shoulder to ensure the climber was following. His heart swelled with hope, knowing that this stranger, though an unexpected ally, could be the key to saving his owner. The storm roared louder, but for Max, the future no longer seemed quite as bleak. Max's breath came in sharp, desperate bursts, his paws slipping and sliding across the icy terrain as he led the climber through the storm. The snow lashed against their faces, but neither the dog nor the man hesitated. Max had found his way. Now it was a race against time. With each bark, he urged the climber to follow faster, and the climber, whose face was etched with determination, kept pace, trusting the dog with his every step. As they neared the base of the cliff, the shadow of the unconscious climber, Max's owner, came into view. His body was crumpled against the jagged rocks, the snow gathering around him like a silent tomb. The climber's heart raced as he approached, his gaze scanning quickly, taking in every detail of the dire situation. The man's breath hitched when he saw the bruises and the unnatural angle of the owner's body, frozen in a cruel mockery of life. Max had reached his destination, but the situation had only worsened. His owner's limp form lay motionless, and every minute that passed felt like an eternity. The climber knelt beside the injured man, his hands shaking with the weight of the responsibility now thrust upon him. His first instinct was to check for a pulse, but as his fingers brushed against the owner's icy skin, a sickening realization set in. The pulse was faint, barely there, and the owner's body was cold to the touch. Too cold. If something wasn't done soon, the man would slip away, lost to the storm and the unforgiving mountain. Max stood watch, his eyes never leaving the injured climber, his body tense as though he understood just how fragile this moment was. The storm roared around them, a constant reminder of how quickly they were running out of time. The climber's eyes darted around, searching for a way to help. There was no time to waste. His mind raced with options, but each one felt like a gamble. Could they make it back to the camp? Was there enough time to call for help? Every second felt like a ticking clock, and with each beat the possibility of survival grew slimmer. Without hesitation, the climber made a decision. He had to move fast, had to get help. He turned to Max, who had become his beacon of hope. "We're not giving up," he muttered through clenched teeth. Max barked once, the urgency in his voice clear. The rescue had just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The climber didn't hesitate. He knew that if they didn't act immediately, the man lying unconscious in the snow would not survive the night. The storm howled around them, a vicious reminder of the mountain's indifference. He glanced at Max, who stood firm, his gaze unwavering. The loyalty in those eyes as clear as the blizzard was fierce. Max had brought him this far, and now the dog was counting on him to save his owner. The climber's heart raced. This was no simple rescue. The path down to the injured climber was treacherous, slippery, and steep. One wrong move, and they could both end up in a worse situation than before. He took a deep breath and began to lower himself down the cliffside. His hands gripped the jagged rocks, every muscle in his body straining against the harsh wind and freezing temperatures. He knew he had to be careful, but there was no time to waste. Max was already ahead of him, his paws light on the snow and ice, moving with an effortless precision that seemed to defy the dangerous landscape. The dog darted between rocks and ice formations, nudging them when the climber hesitated, guiding him along the safest path. The climber followed Max's lead, trusting the dog completely. Every time he doubted himself, Max would glance back, barking as if to urge him on. The dog's movements were calculated, never random, always guided by a sense of urgency and a deep understanding of the peril they faced. The climber could feel the weight of the decision, the risk that hung in the balance, but Max's confidence fueled his resolve. With each step down, the climber's body grew colder, and the wind bit deeper, but he kept moving, focused entirely on Max's next move. Max's guidance was invaluable, especially when the climber reached a particularly dangerous part of the cliff. A section of rock was crumbling underfoot, and the climber nearly lost his balance. But Max, ever alert, barked sharply and led him to a safer, sturdier path, never faltering. With the dog's help, the climber managed to navigate the treacherous terrain and finally reached the injured man. They were close now, but the danger wasn't over. The climber knelt beside the unconscious owner, breathing heavily, but there was a spark of hope in his chest. Max stood by, his eyes full of resolve, never leaving their side. It was clear that without Max's intelligence and unwavering loyalty, the climber wouldn't have made it. The owner's eyelids fluttered. The world around him was a blur of white, the cold seeping into his bones, but something in the pit of his stomach stirred. His body, battered and broken, screamed in protest as he tried to move, his muscles refusing to cooperate. The storm's ferocity still raged, but the cold wasn't what hit him first. It was the warmth, the comforting weight of something familiar. Something that in that moment felt like a lifeline. Max, the owner's blurry vision cleared just enough to focus on the steady presence of his dog, standing firm beside him. Max's eyes locked with his, wide and unwavering. There was no fear in those eyes, no uncertainty, only determination. Max's silent communication pierced through the fog of pain and confusion. His dog had been there, had never left his side, not even in the most dire of moments. The bond between them, forged over countless days of climbing together, of trust and teamwork, now felt like a powerful force beyond words. The owner's breath hitched. He felt the weight of his own body's limitations, how close he had come to losing everything. His limbs were stiff, his vision still clouded by the aftershocks of his fall. But Max's presence was like a spark in the darkness. The dog had been the reason for the rescue. Max's relentless determination, his intelligence, had made the impossible happen. Without Max, there would have been no one to guide the climber, no one to push through the storm to find help. The owner realized, in that painful moment of clarity, that Max had not only saved him, he had kept him alive against all odds. Struggling against the weakness in his body, the owner forced himself to sit up, the effort sending waves of pain through him. His hands trembled, but he reached out, his fingers brushing the dog's fur. Max nuzzled his hand, his tail giving a faint wag, as if to say, "I'm here, and I'll never leave you." Tears welled up in the owner's eyes, not from pain, but from a deep well of gratitude and love. The storm howled around them, but in that moment, there was nothing but the unspoken promise between them. No matter what came next, they would face it together. Against all odds, the bond between man and dog had become their greatest strength. The climber's fingers gripped the jagged rock, his body trembling with exhaustion, but he pushed on, determined to reach the injured man. Max, always ahead, darted down the cliffside, pausing to glance back as if urging the climber to hurry. They had made it this far, but the danger was far from over. The wind howled, the snow blinding, and the air seemed to grow heavier with every passing second. Then, a deafening crack split the air, a sound so violent it made the climber's heart skip a beat. The avalanche warning, its eerie tone slicing through the storm, sent a shock of adrenaline through his veins. He froze. His eyes darted nervously over the cliffside, trying to pinpoint the danger, but the swirling snow clouded his vision. In that instant, he knew the storm had escalated from terrifying to deadly. The avalanche had already begun, its rumble beneath the earth a chilling prelude to the destruction that would follow. The climber's breath caught in his throat. He had no choice but to move faster. The path back up, the only way to safety, was now blocked by the avalanche, and it was only a matter of moments before the snow began to crash down the mountainside with devastating force. The decision was clear. They had to find a way out, and they had to do it now. He scanned the slope, looking for an escape route. Max barked sharply, ears flat against his head, as if to say, "We need to move. Now." Without a second thought, the climber pushed through the pain in his own limbs, each step growing heavier as the snowstorm intensified. But Max was already on the move, his eyes locked on the trail ahead, leading the climber away from the falling snow. The storm wasn't just a threat, it was closing in, swallowing their only chance for survival. The wind screamed in their ears, and the avalanche's roar grew louder, deafening. The climber could feel the ground tremble beneath his feet, the air thick with tension, but Max's presence kept him steady. The dog's focus was relentless, guiding the climber through the chaos, through the unthinkable. Every second felt like an eternity. The avalanche was coming, and their only hope lay in escaping the mountain's grasp before it consumed them both. With Max as his guide, the climber knew they still had a chance, but the clock was ticking, and the storm showed no mercy. Max's instincts were sharper than ever. The avalanche was no longer a distant threat. It was now an all-encompassing roar, a wave of destruction rapidly closing in on them. The ground trembled beneath the climber's boots, his heart pounding as the air thickened with the scent of danger. He glanced over at Max, who stood poised, his body tense with purpose, as though the storm itself was nothing more than a challenge to be conquered. Max's eyes were fixed ahead, and with a sharp bark, he urged the climber to move faster. But the snow was deep and unyielding, and each step felt like an eternity. Suddenly, Max's gaze shifted. His muscles tensed, and with an explosive burst of energy, he plunged into the thick snow, his paws digging fiercely into the soft powder. The climber's eyes widened as Max began to carve through the snow with an almost unnatural determination, clearing a path where there had been none before. The storm raged around them, but Max, undeterred, worked tirelessly. Each shovel-like movement of his paws brought them closer to safety, as if the dog could feel the avalanche's deadly breath on their heels. The climber watched in awe, his heart swelling with gratitude and disbelief. Max was no longer just a dog. He had become a beacon of survival, an unspoken hero in this life-or-death struggle. With each leap forward, Max seemed to know exactly where to dig, finding hidden pathways, clearing the way for them to continue. The storm was relentless, but Max refused to stop. His actions weren't driven by instinct alone. There was purpose, intelligence, and an overwhelming sense of duty in every move he made. The climber, struggling to keep up, felt the weight of the situation pressing on him. But Max, with a bark of encouragement, was always a step ahead, guiding him through the snow, his body moving as if it were one with the storm. He cleared snowbanks, dug through drifts, and kept them on course, pushing forward when everything else seemed lost. Max wasn't just helping. He was leading them to safety, to a chance at survival. And as the climber stumbled, exhausted and nearly spent, Max's unwavering loyalty and strength were the only things keeping them both alive. In that moment, the bond between man and dog wasn't just a connection. It was the only thing standing between them and the chaos that was closing in. Max was their salvation, and he knew it. The deafening roar of the helicopter's blades sliced through the storm, a welcome sound amidst the chaos of the mountain. The climber's muscles screamed in protest as he dragged the injured man closer. But Max was there, unwavering, a step ahead once again. The loyal dog had never stopped moving, never stopped believing they could make it to safety. With each stride, he guided the climber, pushing him forward when fatigue threatened to overtake them both. The helicopter hovered low, a rescue team leaning out, shouting over the howling winds. The climber's breath was ragged, his every step an agonizing battle. But Max had already made the way clear. The dog had worked tirelessly to ensure they had reached this moment. He had dug through snow, fought the storm, and led the way to the one chance at survival. Now, standing at the edge of safety, Max's work wasn't done yet. His eyes were fixed on the injured man, his gaze steady and unwavering, as if to say, "I've brought you here. You're going to be okay." The climber reached out, hands trembling as he passed the injured man up to the waiting rescue team. Every movement was deliberate, every second precious. The helicopter crew worked quickly, securing the owner into the harness, but the climber's eyes never left Max. In that brief moment between the storm and the safety of the helicopter, the depth of their bond hit him with full force. Without Max's persistence, without the dog's relentless guidance, none of this would have been possible. Max stood on the ground, his eyes scanning the snow, his body still alert, waiting for the climber to join him in safety. As the helicopter's engines roared to life, lifting the injured man away from the mountain, the climber's hand reached out to Max. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. The journey wasn't over yet, but they had made it. Together. The helicopter rose into the sky, and the climber watched, feeling the weight of the situation begin to lift. The storm still raged, but in that moment, They had survived. They owed it all to Max, his intelligence, his determination, and his unshakable loyalty. As the helicopter faded into the distance, the climber knew one thing for certain. Max had not only saved his owner's life, he had saved them both. The warmth of the helicopter's cabin felt like a distant dream compared to the brutal cold they had just escaped. The owner, now safely aboard, was finally able to relax, though every inch of his body still screamed in pain. The rescue team worked quickly, assessing his injuries, checking vitals, and making sure he would survive. But amidst the chaos, the one thing that kept him from slipping into panic, from succumbing to the reality of his pain, was the steady presence of Max. Max sat by his side, the dog's head gently resting against the owner's leg, his eyes calm yet watchful. The helicopter's loud hum and the rush of medical professionals seemed like background noise as the owner clutched Max's fur, holding him tightly, as though afraid that if he let go, everything they had just fought for would slip away. Max's warmth, his rhythmic breathing, and the comfort of his fur against the owner's skin grounded him in that moment of confusion and shock. Tears streamed down the owner's face, but they were not just tears of pain, they were tears of gratitude. He had been so close to losing everything, but now, lying there in the helicopter with Max by his side, it was clear. Without the dog, without Max's fierce determination and unrelenting loyalty, he would not be here. The storm, the avalanche, the brutal terrain, none of it would have mattered. It was Max who had led him through it all, Max who had brought him back from the brink of death, even when it seemed impossible. The owner's heart swelled with emotion, every beat heavy with the weight of their bond. He turned to Max, his voice shaky but filled with love. "You saved my life," he whispered, his voice breaking. The dog didn't need words. He simply nuzzled the owner's hand, his eyes filled with an understanding that only a true companion could offer. It was more than just a rescue. It was a partnership, a bond that went beyond words, beyond anything the owner could have ever imagined. As the helicopter soared higher, away from the storm and the mountain, the owner held Max close, knowing that this loyal dog had done more than just save him from physical harm. Max had saved him from despair, from giving up, and from the suffocating loneliness that had threatened to consume him on the mountain. Max was not just a dog, he was his hero. The steady beep of the hospital monitors and the sterile, quiet hum of the machines did little to soothe the owner. His body ached, bruises and cuts still fresh, but his mind was far from the pain. Instead, it was consumed by the memory of the mountain, of the cold, the storm, and the unyielding bond he shared with Max. As he lay in the hospital bed, the rhythmic sound of his breathing and the quiet moments of recovery gave him time to reflect. He couldn't stop thinking about everything Max had done, everything the dog had risked to get him to safety. The medical staff had tended to his injuries with professional care, but the true healing had already begun. It was happening in his heart. Max had been his protector, his guide, his lifeline. There had been no hesitation in Max's actions. The dog had faced the storm, the avalanche, the unforgiving mountain without fear, driven only by a singular, unwavering goal: to save him. Max had given everything, without asking for anything in return. His loyalty had no limits, his courage no boundaries. Tears welled up in the owner's eyes as he turned his head to look at Max, who lay calmly at his side on the hospital bed, resting his head on the owner's lap. The dog's gaze was steady, unwavering, and full of love. No words were needed. Max's presence was a silent promise that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The bond between them had been forged on that mountain through pain, fear, and the unrelenting will to survive. It was stronger now than it had ever been before. The owner's voice cracked as he spoke, though only the dog could hear him. "I will never take you for granted again," he whispered, his hand gently brushing Max's fur. "You saved me. You've always been there for me, and I promise I won't forget that." Max nuzzled his hand, the silent gesture speaking volumes. The owner knew that this wasn't just a dog he had saved. Max had saved him in every sense of the word. As the days passed, the physical scars would heal, but the emotional wound, one of gratitude, love, and a bond that could never be broken, would last forever. Max had given him a second chance at life, and the owner knew he would never be the same. The days of recovery passed slowly, each one a reminder of the mountain the owner had climbed, both literally and figuratively, The bruises healed, the cuts faded, but there was something deeper that had changed within him. The storm, the fall, the avalanche. They felt distant now, like a chapter from a story that was slowly coming to an end. But the bond he shared with Max was stronger than ever. As he sat in the warmth of his home, surrounded by the familiar comfort of his everyday life, the truth became undeniable. He had scaled his greatest mountain, and it wasn't the one he had left behind on that treacherous peak. It was the bond he now shared with Max, something that no storm, no obstacle, no climb could ever surpass. Max, as always, was by his side. The dog's presence was constant, as if he were not only the survivor of that ordeal, but the reason the owner had made it through. Every morning, every evening, the dog was there, his unwavering loyalty a daily reminder of what had truly mattered. No longer did the owner long for the thrill of high-altitude climbs or the rush of challenging the mountains. He had faced the most dangerous climb of all, the climb of the heart, the climb of survival, the climb of love and loyalty. Sitting on the porch, watching the sun set with Max lying at his feet, the owner realized that climbing had once defined him. But now, he understood that the greatest achievement in life wasn't the mountains he had conquered, but the relationship he had with this incredible dog. Max had shown him what it meant to never give up, to keep pushing forward, and to place your trust in someone who would always be there, no matter the odds. As the owner reflected on the long journey they had both traveled, he knew that no matter where life led them next, no challenge would be too great as long as they faced it together. He smiled down at Max, the two of them sharing a quiet moment of peace. He had scaled many peaks, but this bond, this loyalty, was the one he would cherish forever. The mountains would still be there, but they no longer held the same pull. Max had already given him everything he would ever need. The owner knew with certainty, as he petted Max's head and felt the steady, comforting thrum of the dog's heartbeat, that their greatest adventure was only just beginning. Together, they would face whatever came next, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would always have each other. And that, in the end, was the greatest summit of all.